Perfect. Well, everybody, sometimes these extended weekends sort of get us off. So it might feel like a Monday for many. It's behaving or ain't misbehaving. It's misbehaving like a Monday for me today. So anyway,
I feel that. I'm like, what day is it? I don't
right?
know. Yeah.
Right? It's misbehaving like a Monday. Anyway, James and Nicole, it is such a pleasure to have you join us. We are in our fifth episode of season 3 into the Senior Living and Power Hour. This year's theme has been the pioneers and the mavericks in senior living. And I recall um, early, like maybe it was mid 2024, when I was sharing with someone what my vision was for 2025, and that I really wanted to connect with pioneers and mavericks in senior living and get really different perspectives from folks. It was imperative that I have young pioneers and mavericks to connect with. And so nobody better to be joining us than you two. And I'm so excited for everyone to hear your origin stories and learn more about what you all do and what you all have created and continue to create together. So we are going to be talking to the young pioneers and exploring think tank in this month's Senior Living Empower Hour with our special guests, Nicole Well and James Lee, who are co-founders of the think tank. They're going to be talking to us more about that and then also about just what they do. So again, thanks everybody for joining us. No program that involves a lawyer would be complete without a disclaimer and a disclosure. So this one's very easy. Basically, you can't take any legal advice away from this, zero. And if you have any questions, you might want to seek your own counsel or whatever, but we are an as-is group over here. We are coming to you as is. And for those of you, I'm seeing who's joining us. Most of you may already know me, but the very short abbreviated version is, I've been in senior living. I'm Rebecca Edelman, your host for the Senior Living and Power Hour every month. So join us every month. I'm the founder of, you are actually in my law firm here in Memphis, Tennessee, and I am the founder of an all-woman firm here that focuses its practice on representing senior living, really everywhere in the ecosystem. So very thrilled about that for the past 30 plus years, almost 40 years. I have also initiated a really cool risk management program called Guide Path for those of you who are interested in learning more about some robust risk management and culture change initiatives in senior living. And then I do all sorts of other things. I'm a Bridge the Gap ambassador. As I know, Nicole is also now or was a Bridge the Gap ambassador. Somehow or another, we all know Bridge the Gap and have been intersecting with Bridge the Gap for a long time. So for those of you who do not know Bridge the Gap, go check out their podcasts and all the other amazing content from this very a valuable senior living group, a group of professionals that have focused on senior living. So very exciting. And anyway, I do a lot of other things, but beyond that, the real thing that I enjoy doing, particularly every month and today, is I host the Senior Living Empower Hour, which found its roots, I don't know, 25 years ago as like a flyer that I would send out to educate people in the senior living space. And it sort of morphed into a larger newsletter and this, that, and the other. And ultimately, 3 years ago, I transformed this into a webinar. So it's been a really super fun platform. And again, I'm just so excited to have these two special people join us. I'm not going to do a whole lot of talking today. I may throw in, I've got a couple of comments here that I wrote down and, maybe adding some legal spin to some things. But really, I want to turn this over and they can introduce themselves to James Lee and then Nicole Will, both founders of Think Tank, but also the creators, the ideators, and the innovators around their own things, Bella Groves, Will Gather, and other things they're doing. So you too, welcome. I have so enjoyed more recently getting to know you, James, and knowing you, Nicole, and It's been a great blessing to really have a direct experience from with the future leaders of senior living. That's really how I see it. And while I know that our space, we're going to talk about this today, extends past, the immediate senior living ecosystem, and we touch so many, different spaces, but it's been a real blessing uh, to be inspired and really get motivated, and also to ground my hope and my excitement in the future through folks like you two. So there you go. Take it over. James, Nicole, welcome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Love that. James, do
Yeah,
you
I'll
want to
get
go first?
started. Yeah, and sorry if my audio is still low or if I'm shouting for anybody else. I'll do my best to project here. My name is James Lee. I have been in the senior living profession for 17, almost 18 years. So this is my 18th year actually in the uh, broader services of aging and for seniors. I started as a frontline caregiver many years ago, and I've had an opportunity to be in this profession at every community role. So a community role, I mean an independent living, an assisted living, or a dementia care community. Half of my time has been in various corporate positions, corporate leadership roles, trying to support companies at a bigger scale. And that's in operations, sales, learning and development. I've seen this profession from many, many different angles, from many depths. And ultimately, all of that was, I think of it as an education to get to this phase of my life and career, which is developing and creating my own version, my own vision of how to support this profession. I hope it's also okay for me to say that there's a healthy level of frustration with the status quo of things that have led to Bella Groves, that have led to the think tank, to a lot of the things that I partake in now professionally. But all of that comes from a place of love. I often tell people that you can't really hold deep frustrations for anything that you don't love. And I love senior living. I love aging services. I love the chance to be able to be a part of this part of people's lives and families' lives. So happy to dig into a lot of the things that we do now, but in a nutshell, I am a small business owner in senior living, trying to make a difference.
And you are. And, just one comment about frustrations, you know, um, over the course of time, there have been and continue to be some frustrations in our space, but I always like to flip that around and think about what great opportunities those frustrations ultimately drive. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So, and you really have optimized and capitalized on those, James, and continue to do that. So, Miss Nicole,
Yeah,
welcome.
thank you.
Welcome.
So happy to be here, and it's been wonderful to be connected with you, Rebecca, and the work that you do and like support each other in that. We all know and care about someone that's aging, right? And it can be very overwhelming a lot of times, right? Like we've never done this before.
Yeah.
Like a lot of life phases, we've never done it before. I have a daughter that's graduating. I've never done that before. But I think it's important that when we talk to each other, when we share a story, people see themselves in us or can relate, or we give people the words to share what they're thinking about that they might not have been able to articulate. And most importantly, we're not alone. And for me and my family, it was what we were experiencing. I was 15 and my grandma moved into my family house, and we actually had to move houses, sold the one house that I was born and raised in to move to a different home in a different part of town so that we would have the space for her to be a part of our family. And I was at such an influential time, starting high school. None of my friends had a grandparent that lived with them. So going through what that was like, but what it offered me and what I discovered in that is the power of friendship with an older adult and with my grandma and the traditions that we created. She was involved in my life and with my family and with my friends. To this day, my friends and I still talk about my grandma
Mm.
and her advice or what she was like, along, of course, with my family. And when I was in that, proceeded to then study gerontology and work in senior living for many years as a director over some of those other departments. And what I found is that a lot of what my family was going through, a lot of what we were experiencing in senior living, and a lot of people then around me had a lot of questions about, right? Like, how do you make that move? What do I do if my grandma needs more care? What is dementia, right? Like all those questions that we have. And I was fortunate to be in a position to have an idea for a company and see that live out through primarily the podcast, where we want to answer those questions, be curious, have conversation, really learn from other caregivers, other educators, and organizations and people that are making change and using their voice. So giving them a platform to feel really seen and heard within that, and then practical, right, solutions. We talked about, oh, these, problems we might be experiencing or the status quo that we're challenging. And I always believe that while the most greatest innovations that have come out of our world we are offering solutions to the problems that we are experiencing. So
Mhm.
creating a place to do that, to learn, to grow, empower, like, right, we can make really great decisions in our care if we are empowered with information, right? It's hard to make a decision when you're like, I don't know anything about that, or like what direction I'm going in. We need the information. So the platform to do that through the podcast of navigating the world with your aging loved one. With that, I would say that leadership and wanting to highlight other people's visions and stories led to working with organizations that also would like support in their aging services, caregiver support, senior living solutions. How can all of what I've learned, can we help organizations connect to the people that they want to connect with, primarily families and caregivers and older adults, and how can we build visibility for them, share their story, and connect all of those components together. So really bridging the gap and and all of that, and making sure that if I can use my platform to be a microphone to all of the other voices, I'm honored to do so.
And Nicole, thank you for that. And at the end of our Senior Living and Power Hour today, we'll let people know where they can find you and good resources for where everyone can find the both of you, and of course Think Tank. But what I really appreciate about you two also is, and something that's really, I think, so valuable and is, I find that the work you do, and this is a really nice segue, I think, to Think Tank. I really appreciate and value the way that you have curated so much of so many different important aspects in the senior and the aging space. Like, there is so much information available to us and so much access to information that it could get very confusing. And so for me, the Senior Living and Power are also in some ways like a mini think tank, though, has been an opportunity to curate to curate some these unique perspectives that people can really have to rely on. So I thank you all for that. Great segue to talk to us about, this is what you guys have done individually, and now what is it that you created together? Let's talk more about that. Let's talk about the genesis of Think Tank.
Yeah. To start that conversation, I also want to invite all the attendees, the people who are listening right now. The benefit of joining something live is that we can interact together. Otherwise, it could have just been a comment on a social media post later. So I would say what would be really helpful for me and Nicole to personalize this. One, I'd love to know kind of what profession or what, tell me what you do in the comments, just so I have an idea. Are you all attorneys? Are you in senior living? Just a little context would be helpful.
No attorneys, no
No
attorneys,
attorneys, okay, yeah.
no attorneys welcome. No, I'm just
No
kidding.
attorneys except Rebecca.
No attorneys welcome.
But tell us a little bit about, who you are. Are you in senior living? Are you an owner? Are you an operator? Anything like that would be helpful. And two, instead of this being, 45 minutes of us talking about our business and promoting the business, we'd love to share with you why we did it. And also, if we can help you to do something like this on your own, the value of joining any conversation like this is thinking about, well, what's in it for me, and what am I going to do with all of that information now that I have it? So,
Ravi, so I know some of these folks, but an idea just came to my mind, by the way, in a minute. So Ravi is not a lousy risk manager.
oh,
He's one of the greatest risk managers out there at one of our lovely communities in Missouri.
yeah,
And he is a life plan community. He's amazing and a friend of mine and a friend of Senior Living in Power Hour and a great friend of senior living, period. One thing that came up, and I know Marazu, one of my close friends and colleagues from Nigeria, is joining us today, and welcome, is the idea of, you just planted this seed in my mind, James, is, like a global think tank. I know you guys also take Think Tank Global, but for example, our friends in Nigeria gathering together, thought leaders and ideators and innovators in areas where we are trying to serve an underserved senior living population and caregivers. So, Marasa, we could maybe talk about that offline some other time, but really great point, James, and appreciate that. I'll keep curating these, but you guys keep going. You
okay,
guys tell us who you are, and I'll be the facilitator here. Keep putting things into the chat.
awesome. We'll take it with a grain of salt, Ravi, the adjective you chose of lousy, but risk manager for life plan community is helpful to know. What I would say to kind of begin talking about the think tank and why it exists at all, I've realized that people who change agents, people who want to see change happen, people who want to be a part of creating that change, we need a community as well, just for us, just for people who are on that soapbox. And I've learned not too long ago that people need to know what you stand for if you want people to come up and stand on that platform with you, or if you want to go stand on the soapboxes with other people. People need to know what you stand for. So one of the things that I have felt throughout my career in senior living is that the business and the machinery of the real estate part of senior living has in so many ways eclipsed the core of what we were intended to do in the first place, which is to bring a community of people together and to serve one another around this topic of aging. So I've been very vocal about that, probably not always to my benefit, that the kind of empire building of senior living has far outpaced the real innovation that we need, which is working on let's improve dementia care as an example. That's the thing I care about very personally. So when we go to conferences, when we go to other gatherings in senior living, we tend to diagnose the problem over and over and over again. All we really talk about at many conferences is here's a topic that deserves some attention. What the think tank is, in comparison to that, is we're putting forth a potential solution. And that's the goodwill. So on the center of the screen, you'll see create goodwill. That's really the core of it. Myself and a few colleagues and friends from the industry, 5 years ago, we gathered together. Well, truth be told, because they wanted to come and support the opening of Bella Groves. And I thought, while you're here, let's work on some interesting problems. And so I had real life business problems that I needed to solve or think about. And I thought, there's all these brilliant people in the room, let's take advantage of that. To my surprise, they were all up for the idea. So I pitched them the topics, market validation and dementia caregiving at home and various other topics. And what they contributed was amazing. We actually used it in the launch of our company. And afterwards, other people heard about this and they said, hey, are you doing it again? And I thought, sure, why don't we do that again? And so year after year, what has grown into what the think tank is now is that there are people from all over the profession that are coming because they are curious about problems and willing to put forth a solution. Not the best, not a completely baked solution, but here's an entry into that. So they've created videos and podcasts and white papers, and we had a hashtag one time from a small group. But all of the deliverables that have come from the think tank are meant to be free resources that people can use that are also curious about creating this change. So I'd say the big bulk of think tank and the physical event and the gathering that we have is to work in small groups and dive into topics that stoke our curiosity. And then
And James, real quick, when you said, people in the industry, people in the, give me an idea of different roles or different responsibilities or
gosh, yeah.
different jobs. Well, give us just maybe some
I
general.
I love this because it is the most diverse group of people I think I've ever been around. So we'll have I would say the usual suspects of gatherings like this. They lead organizations, so they're CEOs, founders, big thinkers, strategic people. And in the same room, maybe in the same small group, you have entry-level salespeople, you have small business owners, solopreneurs, content creators. We have the widest array of people coming to the think tank, and also you typically don't know who does what. That's a specific part of the environment we've created is the democratization of the ideas wins. So, an operator or a vendor or a CEO or an entry-level salesperson, you don't really know of those distinctions until after you have formed the relationship and you realize, gosh, I really like working with Nicole. I wonder what she does. And then they'll look and they'll figure out, oh gosh, she does this, and then they'll decide to do work together. But I'd say the commonality of people coming to the think tank is that they all see or can specify a problem to which they feel like I've got an idea for this, and they want to tinker with it with other people.
I love that. I love that it really is about the people and not the professions,
Mhm.
Yes,
which is
it
really,
should
which
be.
is really special. And
Yeah.
these core components, I think you've touched on them, but you know, these pillars, I'm gonna just kind of call them
Yeah,
pillars. What I love about them, because I think about all the different roles I play and then all the different people who I encounter in the senior living ecosystem, all of these core components, all of these pillars can show up everywhere. They're not,
yeah.
they're building relationships happens in your community, outside your community. I mean, I really appreciated these core concepts, these core components.
Well, that's how and why we gather. I used to have, going back to frustrations for a little bit, there's a common saying in senior living about how hard it is to turn a big ship. And I'm sure that's not exclusive to our profession, but this idea that change takes so long and it's hard to kind of move a big ship. And recently I've been thinking, instead of turning the ship, just become the tide, right? And that's what this is we're all trying to become the tide and move the tide together, and everyone else is going to have to move forward. A practical example of that is dementia care is oftentimes treated as assisted living plus. It's just the later version of assisted living. That's kind of the status quo of senior living, and yet nobody is really talking about the fact that senior living oftentimes contributes to the misconceptions around dementia. In fact, we call it memory care, and I think that confuses people that this is only about memory loss when we know that there's so much more related to dementia care. So it's other people who, as I'm saying this, they're like rah rah, like I believe that too. I can't believe somebody else thinks it, and then the think tank is gathering those people together.
Yeah, and again, I love all these benefits. We can talk about all these different benefits, and I think Nicole, you touched on some of them, but
Yeah.
maybe you can speak to a few more of these as we sort of dive a little bit deeper. But I'm looking at, I love this. So, Maratsu is a caregiver and a founder of the Jared Ann Foundation that's in concept. So maybe over the course of the next few minutes, you could put in a question that you might have about your caregiving, or maybe a pain point, or something that you're encountering in your caregiving work that we might be able to ideate about here, any of it. And then also, Robbie, love that mission. That our mission's to enrich the lives and build relationships. Isn't that true? And that really is also what think tank is, and we're kind of think tanking today. I think whenever we have minds together and we're sharing, we're really our own think tanks, right? And then, and thank you, Gary. You are such a amazing supporter. And I see here it says this summer you're focusing on training and coaching sales, marketing, and dementia care staff who work with blended families. Interesting. Okay. Maybe you can share a couple more notes about that, or Nicole, you may have something to speak on in that area. Who've loved one living with dementia, specializing in training staff and or volunteers who also serve as facilitators. So anyway, this is really great. These programs that you are initiating and launching, and again, just sort of part of the innovation, conscious innovation that we are all working toward, which is kind of why we're all here today and what Think Tank is all about. So Nicole, maybe share a little bit more about your own experiences with Think Tank. And I know you guys have, live in your purpose and credibility, and maybe just offer some insights into some of these terms that are benefits of when we come together and think together and ideate together.
Yeah, absolutely. What I have found is that being a part of it, right, at first as a attendee and a participant, wanting to meet other people that have, like James was saying, right, you have that mindset of you want to be surrounded by people that can not only lift you up, but have the same vision for change. And when we go back to, okay, a benefit, right, community, it is so powerful to be in a room that not only brings, yes, different people in senior living and different facets of that, but holistically looking at all of aging services. So we've had founders of a nonprofit that support people in different ways. Adult Day, people that are supporting and educating through social media. So it's really taking, if we really want to learn and build community, we need to do that from the whole care economy, from the whole care community. And that's one of my favorite things about Think Tank is it brings everyone together in that way to not only, right, help shape the future, share goodwill, because we need all of the different perspectives. We can't put work out into the world and make change if we only have, let's say, while one person's thought and opinion is absolutely valuable, we then need all of our different lived experiences and ways that we're working in aging services to help shape this comprehensive deliverable into the world that can provide that goodwill in a bigger way, right? Because that's when that ripple effect lives on. For me, it was really wonderful to hear from the facilitators and then being a part of the leadership team last year of learning about not only supporting the work that I do, but personal development as well. Because I think we have to really be sound people and be self-aware and learn about who we are. And when we say live in your purpose, know your purpose, to then be able to be a powerful leader with intention, right? When we know ourselves, then we know how to articulate that, how to move with that vision then forward. And I think that that's really, really, helpful. And that it's a part of Think Tank is not only, yes, we learn about leadership in our work capacity, but it's a big part of, developing that personal development. Influence and visibility and credibility live together in a way that we need to have platforms and mechanisms to share the work that we do and the ideas that we have to other people, which helps support more visibility, right? We're able to share about the people that we've met at Think Tank. We're able to share about the work that we've done or that all of the groups have done. We're able to share about the different deliverables and what was the benefit of that. And when you do work with people and you're working on important topics, you develop more credibility over time because you're in the trenches, right? You're giving yourself and you're equipping yourself with not only leadership and personal development skills, but you're having more awareness and knowledge of what's happening around us, right?
Mm.
Like we're not stuck in our own narrow vision. And we need that to be able to say, you know what, I have a wealth of information that I've gathered because I've looked at other outside perspectives, and that makes me credible, you know?
Yeah.
There is a part of, we had talked about one of the sessions was thought leadership last year, and we touched on, the difference between personal branding and content marketing. And when you look at, Think Tank, I would say is another representation of growing your thought leadership, right? You're coming up with the way that you think, how you're going to share that into the world that is most likely a new idea. So your personal branding makes you relatable, right? We get to know who you are, which you do that in your small groups. You get to
Yeah.
see like, are they on time? Do they, reply to my email? Like all those things, right? Not that that's what
Uh-oh.
personal branding is, but you understand, you get to know more of the person
Yeah.
and who they are. And content marketing, right, is a mechanism of how we share. It makes you visible because you're putting your work out there. But if you don't have the thought leadership, which makes you indispensable, you don't have the foundation or the weight or the deep knowledge or the credibility to make that leadership or that thought leadership, right, have the legs to like stand the test of time or
Mhm.
make change or make anyone stop and pause and say, maybe this is someone that I should be paying attention to or listening to,
Mhm.
or a group of people, right? So
Mhm.
you have to
Hmm.
really be able to have, I believe, all of those in place that you're not only doing the good work, you have to have the trust and build the relationships. And then you also have to have the leadership skills to then be able to share your vision in a bigger, broader way, and also um, grow as a human, which is, I think, what we're all doing every day, anyways, right?
We hope so.
Yeah.
We sure hope so.
Trying. Yeah.
Really, really thoughtful overview of all these benefits. And really kind of a nice time for the question too. Gary, thank you for this. I'd be interested in having James and Nicole identify two things a dementia care facilitator should practice in guiding a group. I'm just throwing a question at you now, going off script here for a moment.
I like
Uh,
it.
and James in particular, I assume, with the work that you're doing at Bella Grove and
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to take a stab at the question first, and I think it deserves a preface on what I believe, and I want to bridge from what Nicole just said. A lot of times we work in this profession, and we don't get to sharpen our skills with other people who want to sharpen those skills. So I have been at many conferences where I am hearing a speaker and wanting to be enthralled by the topic, and then I want to talk to somebody about it, but then they're on their phones or texting, or like you can tell when you're trying to learn something and other people are not into it. At the
Mhm.
think tank, we curate facilitators and learning so that everybody in the room wants to learn about content
Mhm.
marketing. Everyone wants to learn and distinguish. Nicole facilitated the part on thought leadership, and I thought I knew much about, a lot about thought leadership, but I learned a lot from her facilitation of it. And that's the point that once you know, oh, okay, the difference between content is James talks about dementia. And then thought leader, to use Nicole's word of indispensable, that means
Mm.
somebody's going to have a conversation around dementia and they're going to say, we got to get James's thought on this. That's the difference between content marketing and thought leadership. And only certain people will want to get into the realm of thought leadership. But if you want to exact and influence change, you better take thought leadership pretty seriously and do a good job of it. So that's a bridge. Um, with dementia care, I believe that the dementia caregiver, the family caregiver, is often kind of put into a secondary role by senior living. It's like, hey, Nicole, you get to be the adult daughter again. And how many times does our profession say that exact phrase? Nicole, you get to be the daughter again, as if caregiving is not part of that. And so the message we're sending daughters is, Nicole, we'll take it from here. Your only job now is to pay the bill and hold us accountable. But we believe at Bella Groves that that uniting informal and professional caregivers together around education, methodology, like, do we have the same approach and philosophy to care? And if we do, we have a much better chance at being partners here. So one of the things, Gary, I would say that dementia care facilitators need to do to guide a group is that you need to let people know what you stand for. And most dementia care facilities will tell you what they do, not what they stand for. We have lots of specific things that we stand for. Like, as an example, we tell people that we believe in the dignity of risk, that the person living with dementia should be able to bear risk, like going outside, using a steak knife, simple things that we would take for granted are the pleasures of life. But how many times in senior living, specifically in dementia care, do we just bubble wrap people and say, because you have dementia, you can no longer accept risk? But what we're really saying is, if you no longer have the capacity for risk, you remove autonomy and agency and personhood from that person. So we're educating people and families around what we believe, but we also have to let people know what we stand for so they can join or not join.
What about you, Nicole? One more thing. Is there something you'd like to add to something a dementia care facilitator should practice in guiding a group?
You know, this is stemming from a conversation I actually had this morning with someone who is a family caregiver, full time, and helps educate other people. I would share the thought of, when we're talking and when we're talking about caregiving, when we're talking about dementia care, we have to consider all of the different perspectives. And I think at times we, in our minds might have an idea of like, of who we think a family caregiver is, or what they look like, or what their demographics are. But we are minimizing, and we're not taking into consideration having all of these different voices at the table, right? When you look at the data, family caregivers are much younger, I think 18 to 34. Don't quote me on this, but it's somewhere around anywhere from like 30 to 40% of caregivers are in that demographic, while a lot of our language is we're addressing like older adults that might be caring for a spouse, or the oldest daughter that's caring for a parent. And there is an entire demographic of caregivers that are all different ages and backgrounds and socioeconomic statuses. And so I think we have to not exclude all of those voices when we are educating or sharing or talking or trying to reach those dementia caregivers in our education. I think that it's important we also bring our caregivers and have them have a seat at the table and be a part of the education that we're doing, as well as, I will say, as well as our care recipients, right? Dementia Action Alliance. When I was at the FTD conference, many people were there attending the conference that are living with FTD, as well as their caregivers, right? Like having them be a part of all of it. Conversation, letting us know how we can care better, what it's like to be cared for, right? Like we can't I think we do a lot of talking for people, but not being with.
Yeah, to that point, in particular, and thank you both for those two comments, very valuable. And to that point, that has been a gap for decades in senior living. The gap of um, the gap of inclusivity in the conversation, really. And, it'd be
Right.
rare to have a conversation, a patient conversation in a hospital setting without actually having the patient there and having the patient be part of the information and part of the education and part of the decision making and part of the rehabilitation around, whatever might be going on. But
Mhm.
over the course of time, and I think that is more of a national, I think that's more of a national crisis in terms of how we prioritize our elderly. That's a conversation for a different day. But I think that's what gets reflected in that big gap and that empty place at the table is just, I think, our nation's failure to. We'll talk more about the global perspectives you guys have, but I think that is our nation's failure to prioritize elder care for decades and decades and decades. And now we're really experiencing that. The impact of that, what that can have on a nation. And thank God we are trying to be the tide that, changes the course of the boat. So we'll see, we'll see. I love this about the broader story of care. When we were preparing for this, we started to have a conversation around this, and I love it. And let's talk a little bit about this. The way we've got the slides lined up, this is the ripple effect of think tank and impact through collaboration. And what I love, a couple of my notes here on sort of this particular slide, and maybe a little bit of facilitation is kind of sharing specific moments where a single idea or a partnership from think tank or even beyond think tank created an unexpected positive outcome, like in an actual care community or something like that, something that was unexpected when a group got together to create. Anyway, it was just a thought because, if you came into my office, you would see that our office is designed as a full-on collaborative legal effort. Very important. We really never work on a case. We never engage in a representation without the entire team collaborating on it, everyone, really at all times. So anyway, tell us some more about the impact through collaboration.
Yeah, I'll preface this by saying it's hard for me to know, having started this 5 years ago, what all of the downstream effects are. And, in a bit of candor here, I'll say I don't know that that is something I will track or know as deeply as I might want to. And I think that kind of gets to the ROI mindset of, people in senior living and myself included, of we do want to know, like, okay, what's the ROI specifically? We did this, so where is the exact return on that? And I think part of the ethos of the think tank is that we're trying to improve the people who are causing the ripple, not necessarily, where that ripple is ultimately going to go. I know a handful of stories of people who have referred to their own deliverable within their own organization. So, like, the CEO will ask them, hey, we're experiencing this problem. What does the think tank have about that? So that's a practical example. But I'll tell you just personal example.
There
Nicole
you
and I,
go. Just
yeah,
inspiring story, because that's really what collaboration is all about, isn't it?
totally. I mean, the ROI it's important, but I believe we've overemphasized ROI to the detriment of the humanity of this work. This is human to human work. And so, as an example, Nicole and I met a few years ago, 3, 4 years ago. We need to nail down that date, Nicole, so we can celebrate a professional anniversary
Oh.
every year. But at some point, I didn't know Nicole, and now I know Nicole. And through this, specifically the experience of Think Tank, she came to a Think Tank event a few years back, and then the year after that, she contributed more to the think tank. And then the year after that, she became a a partner to me for Think Tank. And I think about, as a result of this small little group, Nicole and I have traveled together. We traveled to Amsterdam and visited the Hogeweg community, the world's first dementia village. We did some offshoot events. We were at South by Southwest this past spring, and we popped up a care community, a care sanctuary, where we just talked to people in Austin who are caregivers. And then we were invited to South by Southwest to participate in a panel discussion with other people who are talking about caregiving. So yeah, I see your email there, Rebecca.
Sorry about that. I don't know how that
You-
popped. That was some notification went up. Anyway,
but it's okay. I'm not fazed by this. The ripple effect of Think Tank on me, I can speak to that personally. I feel more connected to the big picture of this conversation. Whereas before, the first 13 years I was in senior living, I thought that senior living and everything we did was the work. I thought it was it. I thought what we do was so critical. And the more that I've been away from it, the more I've been in small business and connected to people like Nicole and everyone else at the Think Tank, I realize how much bigger the work is. And more importantly, I realize how small I am in the bigger picture. And I think that's really important for people in senior living to stop feeling like we are the star A+ players of the aging services world. We are a contributor, and we are an important contributor. But when we go to senior living conferences, we're just self-congratulating one another. Like, hey, good job with occupancy. Good job opening up another facility. But we are missing the broader conversations around aging and around families who are experiencing this. And like one specific and practical example I have is I had no idea how many care influencers, social media influencers there are around aging, and the immense amount of credibility that they have gained by sharing their story in such a heartfelt way. And they've been doing it for years. You know, senior living as a profession has been talking about needing to tell a better and different story as long as I've been in this profession. I've heard that phrase forever. And I've realized the more I've gotten out of it and through places like the Think Tank, gosh, there are other people who are really good at telling the story, and they've created an entire business just around sharing content about caregiving. So this little bit of exposure for me, the ripple effect for me is now I see a little further out than my own impact, and now I see a little further out from that impact, and I'm connected with people that are making me realize I am a small contributor to this big thing, but I am a contributor. And I think that's as much as anybody can hope for in any gathering is it has made an impact on me, and I'm going to do something with that.
I
Yeah.
love that. What about you, Nicole?
Yeah, when I look at the ripple effect, yes, the deliverables are shared and they are passed on. So we know that and people reference them, right? But what I've seen the ripple effect really tangibly is, for instance, I met a woman at Think Tank my first year, along with some other people. And the next year, they planned a caregiver forum conference for all of these families in Florida. And the people that we had met at Think Tank contributed to that and were part of that. So like that lived on, then touched, the 100 people that attended. There's many partnerships like that happen. Last year, we had a group, Lorenzo's House, who we love, and they are a nonprofit supporting younger onset, and they were paired up with different people right on their team and at Think Tank. And what has come is that then one organization hosted to have their film shared with the broader
I saw that.
community
Yeah,
with South
amazing.
by Southwest, and same, with Kyle with Rendeavor, he was able to be a part of Think Tank, and us being able to partner and have other work live on. And so it's been there was another conference that was happening in Minneapolis where there were 4 think tankers that were there that because they had learned and heard about it from each other, and then bringing the work to support so that the footprint and the mission can be bigger and can have the ripple effect then around the country, right? So instead of Think Tank just happening in Austin, when you've attended and you've been able to meet and do work together, then you're able to continue that. Maybe it's not a formal Think Tank event, but you're coming together with a shared purpose and able to continue doing really, really cool things around the country. So that's when I think of the ripple effect and that's just a few examples of the
Yeah.
many that are
I love
happening.
that.
But yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And, you know, I also think too that, oh, it's always good to know we're not alone. And there's some sense of some days, and this industry of all of them is, has really unique challenges. They're unique challenges, and there is so much humanity baked into the challenges, and there's connectivity, and there's, you know, I mean, all these, you know, these in many ways like total intangibles. And then you get folks together and then you realize that 1 + 1 = 5, you know? And I
Mhm.
think that's to me has always been the beauty of collaboration when I've collaborated on projects in the senior living spaces. 1 + 1 always is more than two. And so that it's ripple effect, but it's also exponential. And you know, one idea plus one idea is like 5 ideas.
Yeah.
And you know, so I think that that's always been the real advantage and the value out of collaboration, particularly in this space, because you can get very isolated and siloed in senior living. Very easy to do because you wear a lot of hats and you got to put in a lot of there's a lot of efforting and being able to take your foot off that brake, that efforting brake, and just like, you know, I mean, the efforting gas, you know, take your foot off the gas some and just chill and be with people where you don't have to like just effort all the time. And
Yeah.
it makes you feel less lonely out there and more motivated, at least for me. Um,
Mm.
I want to not overlook this really nice comment from Ravi, and he knows from whence he speaks. I think I asked, you know, what are some key pain points, and increased resident satisfaction, improved quality of care, and less use of someone like Rebecca. Well, gosh, Ravi, okay. In other
Yeah.
words, fewer attorneys, fewer litigation and risk mitigation, et cetera. And again, I think that when we are all working together, you know, increased resident satisfaction can come from so many different perspectives. And I know you guys have, you know, your think tank groups. And I want to come back to a question I myself have here before I forget it after. But yeah, those are key pain points, Ravi. And I feel like, and this might be part of my question to you guys is, you know, when I'm looking at the think tank participants, the um they're younger. I just really want to, like, overall, you know, I've been going to conferences for decades. And so most of these conferences I go to, and I don't go to many anymore, but I go to very selective ones, let's just say that. And we've all had that conversation around conferencing. And but what I find is that seeing the youth there, seeing young pioneers and mavericks like you guys is not, we don't see many. And so that's the other thing I really appreciate about think tank. Maybe it's just me, but it feels like it is a future thinking group in the sense of like, and when I say younger, you know, again, I've been at this for 4 decades. So I'm talking about, you know, 1 decade, 2 decades,
Sure.
and, you know, folks who are sort of on the verge of what's next and the next group of leaders, so to speak, or they're in that leadership group where they're building and creating. So I think that's really what's exciting for me too, because I don't know, I wanted to bring that in because I think that's you know, an important part of taking into consideration Ravi's thoughts, which his thoughts are going to never age out. You know, increasing resident satisfaction, improving quality of care, and having less litigation will never age out. So as we move forward, making sure we keep all of that in mind when we're talking, you know, about any generation that's going to be in leadership, because the veterans are very important. We're very important out there to, you know, being able to know where you're going. Part of it is like seeing where you've been, and
Yeah.
so it's an important resource. So anyway, what do you guys think about that?
I have a quick thought on what you were just sharing about support, because I believe that change agents need a community, need a support community. So I have a metaphor. I haven't used it before. We'll just do it in real time here. What I think about in the think tank is that if we think of the senior living profession as a bunch of people singing like a note, everybody has something that they're singing, and then I think the more people that come into the room, these voices get drowned out, and then they have different perspectives. All we're trying to do is take the 40, 50 people at a time who want to sing in a choir, and we're just putting them in one place, and we're saying, here's the starting note, here's the key note, right? And there's something about taking your voice that's just blending into a bunch of noise out there and taking it to a room where you're like, oh, okay, we're all gonna sing together now. That's what that think tank feels like to me, is that we have this short period of time. It doesn't matter what your age is. I've been in a few choirs. I don't know if I'm sure others have. But when you put a choir together, you don't think about how long have you been singing, right? How young are you? How old are you? You just think about, we're gonna sing this song together, right? You have sheet music and we're singing this song together. I feel like the think tank is that, where we're getting together and we're just coordinating our efforts around specific change initiatives. So one of the things that happens out of the think tank is that we tend to focus on, not tend to, but one of the things that we have focused on is dementia, the space of dementia care. And when I think about other senior living conferences or events that I go to, dementia care feels like an extracurricular topic, doesn't it? Sometimes it's like, we're going to talk about sales, we're going to talk about workforce. By the way, we have a speaker talking about dementia, right? But there aren't a lot of spaces where let's talk about the thing that we're all touching in some way, which is dementia. Whether you're IL, AL, MC, or otherwise, we're all touching it in some way. But at the think tank, there are specific groups that are just focused on dementia. And let's think about what we want to innovate in that regard. So if the think tank makes you feel a little less lonely, if you find each other afterwards and go to that conference in Minnesota that Nicole's talking about, or I'm just visiting a city and I know that they live there, that I think is giving a little bit extra inspiration and a
Yep.
little bit more fuel to
100,
somebody. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. And, I want to make sure that we have time to, we're not going to be able to cover all this, but I want you to do this. I put the think tank link in here, but beyond the actual connecting with you guys, and we always send out a takeaways. So we'll be having all sorts of resources in our takeaways for everyone, including the slides. But give us the top things that you guys are doing. Like what is on the think tank agenda coming up? And I know we've got some global things coming up, but share for those who want to learn more, who are interested in connecting. What's on the horizon for you two?
Nicole?
Yeah, well, we've got a lot coming up. We are currently planning for Think Tank Amsterdam in September. We are gauging interest and having people sign up, and really looking forward to having more of that right global perspective of bringing people together. So our goal is really, we want a good number of the international community, which is what we're working on. We have a lot of interest, but we can't all be from the US going to Amsterdam. I mean, we can, but we really are looking for that global perspective. So if anyone knows anyone, in that part of the world that you think would want to join us. And then of course, looking at Think Tank Austin, that is our flagship annual time in December. We are currently having people go on our website, fill out an interest form. We contact you to have a meet and greet call so you can learn more about it, get some details, and meet other people that are potentially interested. And then I'll let James talk about the study abroad trips.
Yeah, so Nicole and I and a few of our colleagues got to go to Amsterdam last year. So we're going to do a few other study groups in blue zones this year. So we've got a few groups that are potentially forming around Japan, Costa Rica, Greece, and Italy. There's a fifth blue zone in California, but I think for the most part, we're going to try to go global with it. So if you're interested in traveling and being with people like us and creating our own study program, that might be a good opportunity for you.
What a great, oh my goodness, what great opportunities those are. I'm all about global. All about global, and I feel like we have this amazing opportunity to expand out globally with all of our thoughts and, many crises going on with elder care and senior living overseas and all over the world. So really excited about that. Thank you for posting these, James. Again, we'll send these notes out. That was the fastest hour ever. That hour lasted a half an hour.
It was
An-
real
It was
fast.
an hour lasted a half an hour. I don't know what happened. Time bent. Time was bending. The time bender. But you guys are really special, and like I said, I'm comforted and so hopeful about the bright future of our leadership and our innovators and our think tankers. And I guess really I'll leave you with this. Wherever you are, whatever your interest is in senior living, whether you're new to it or you've been in senior living for a long time, we need you. Every idea, every moment, every heartfelt sentiment really, really, really matters. So y'all, thank you so much for all that you do. I know you guys are pouring yourselves into this space every single day with so many different people whose lives you're impacting, and thank you for impacting mine, because my life is made better and I am making other people's lives, I hope, better for knowing you two and all the work that you're doing. So really, y'all, check out the think tank. Find your own ways to create your own think tanks in your organizations.
Yes.
And then, yeah, find these two really lovely human beings and see what they are all about. You too, thank you, my young pioneers, my young
Rebecca.
mavericks. It's so amazing. Like, thank you. I'm so excited about the future.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having
Thank
us
you
on.
for
and-
Yeah,
having
you guys are the best. I'll circle back with you later, and you guys be on the lookout, everyone, for your certificate of attendance and also for the slides and for more information from both of these organizations and the think tank. Okay, you guys?
Wonderful.
All
Have a
right.
great short week, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.